Well, thank you. Thank you for being here today, and thank you, Glendale, for inviting me here. And thanks, Jennifer, for your extensive introduction. So I would like this presentation to be a little bit more interactive. So I will go through this slides for about 20 minutes, and then I'll leave about 10, 15 minutes to Q&A. Just ask anything you want, or even whether I'm single or not, anything's open. But before we start, I would just like to ask, how many of you are entrepreneurs or looking to start your company? You raise your hand. Wow, okay, almost everyone. So how many of you have got funded already? Oh, okay, got it. So most of you are looking for funding. All right, so I'll just talk about these my stories. The interesting thing about entrepreneurship is that everyone's story is different. So there's no right or wrong. It's about how you learn from the path, from the challenges that you face, and how you overcome these challenges. So I'll just go through my story very, very fast, and I'll leave the floor to everyone's questions. So the quick introduction about me. I came to the United States at the age of 13 without knowing any English. So actually, people ask me, what's the biggest challenge in your life? It's actually not getting to Stanford or starting a company. It's actually coming to the United States. Imagine yourself age of 13, and you think you're pretty good, like a teenager. And then suddenly you go into a completely different environment, knowing nothing, and people can be laughing at you, and you have no idea what they're talking about. That was really, really tough. Imagine you were reading Chinese poetry, and suddenly you have to watch Barney dancing on TV. That's pretty tough. So, so I think overcome these challenges really prepared me for later on all the rest of the challenges, because looking back, everything else looks just a little bit easier. A little bit about Spokeo. So we are a people intelligence platform that organizes 12 billion records from thousands of sources to help people search, connect, and know what they're dealing with. We have over 200 people in Pasadena today. So I'll just go through our story in a chronological order, and I'll divide it into phases. The first phase is the infancy phase, from basically $4 to $1 million, the hardest one. Now, I just want to ask everyone, and I guess Jennifer already kind of cued that in her introduction, but what was Spokeo in the beginning? Is it a people search engine? Raise your hand if you think it's people search. Oh, okay. Social search engine by email? No? Social network aggregator? Social network? Nothing. Or everyone else is asleep. But when we first started, it wasn't a people search engine. It was actually a social network aggregator. And that's the running theme throughout this presentation, is that your strategy is actually very, very different from the beginning, and you have to evolve it as you grow. In the beginning, it's all about establishing a niche. Right? Establish a niche where you can call yourself number one. Right? Because calling yourself as the social network going head-to-head against Facebook is just a death sentence. Right? When you only have 4 people, especially all newbies, staring at each other in your parents' basement. So what you want to do is you want to establish a niche. And that niche that we found is a social network aggregator. We invented a social network aggregator that aggregated in the beginning, about 45 social networks and help people streamline their digital lifestyle. Now, it was an idea that was good enough to convince 3 other roommates to join, and no one else, because that's how good the idea is. But it wasn't good enough to get funding outside of the dumbest investors in the world, which is my parents. Well, I guess this picture, this is not what you want to look like when you want to get funding. So it's very, very hard to get funding when you don't have any traction or track record, especially before the movies, The Social Network. And we tried many different things. Even with the Stanford Cache, we wasn't able to do it. And that's why we had to go to our parents and say, hey, can you help us out? And we took basically no salary. Now, in the beginning, we want to take no salary so that the burn rate is basically zero and we can last forever. My parents said one of the conditions for you to take the money is that you actually have to spend it. You have to spend it so that you will light, basically, using an analogy, light a fire behind your ass so you kind of run faster. Now, that salary can be too big because my parents are not Bill Gates. So, if the burn rate is too high, then you run out of money very, very soon. And we did almost ran out of money twice. And we in the beginning, it's all about finding that product market fit. Right? Actually, the question a lot of entrepreneurs have when they ask me this question, hey, do you think my product will get traction? Or do you think people will want to use or buy my product? Actually, that's not the right answer. The answer is always yes. The answer is, how do you find the people, however few, who want to buy your product, who will use your product? Because there will always be people who thinks like you. So the question is, how do you do that? And that's why I believe the fundamental theme, the fundamental concept and idea behind the word product marketing fit. In the beginning, we were trying many different things. We tried putting Google AdSense ads into the social network aggregator. We made $4 a day, enough for one Starbucks coffee for 4 of us. So obviously not enough to keep the lights on. And we have to go to our parents twice in order to survive. In fact, when I told my dad, hey, sorry, Dad, I almost lost all your money, the first thing he told me is, it's okay, son. When I gave it to you, I already written it off. I was like, thanks, Dad. But the second thing that he told me is the most important one. He told me, success is not actually about how smart you are, how high your IQ or EQ, or whether you went to Stanford or not. But rather, it's about how long you can last. Whether you can last till the finish line longer than your competitors. Because if you do, you're the only one left. And we did. And in 2008, we changed our business model as a last-ditch offer before we ran out of cash to premium. And we did turn cash flow positive within 6 months. Given that, we basically took very, very low salaries. But still, that's a very, very big milestone. And what we found is people are buying the product for a different reason. Rather than buying the product to aggregate their own content, they're actually buying the product to search for other people's identities online. And that's how we pivoted into the people search space. More specifically, we invented a very, very small niche called social email search engine, social people search engine by email. And that's how we gain the footing. That's how we gain the threshold, the beachfront for us to succeed later on. So the first phase is really about trying everything to find out the perfect, not the perfect, but rather the product market fit of your product, however small it is. And it took us 2 years to find that niche. So if you actually only try it for 3 months, 6 months, and you say it failed, then I would say you didn't try hard enough. Generally speaking, when I heard other people's entrepreneurial stories, usually it takes about 1 to 3 years. So it does take a while. And so don't get discouraged if it doesn't work or you can't get funding. And at this stage, I would suggest just take enough funding to survive. Because if you take so much, that the investor's expectation is a lot higher. And before you find out that product marketing fit, it limits your chances to try different things, to pivot. And you limit the chance to survive. So just take enough funding to find out who will actually, however small, however few, who will actually buy or use your product. And once you find that, then scale, right? Don't scale a broken car. Because if you scale a broken car, you run it faster, well, guess what? You're going to crash faster as well. Now, the next stage. So we found a very, very small, right, niche market that we call social people search by email. So what's next? Well, next, the theme is you want to actually climb up the ladder. And how do you do that? Well, to do that, you simply take out the adjectives in front of that. Right? The funny thing about marketing is, I call it kind of the paradox, is that the simpler your marketing message is, the bigger your market. The more complicated, the more adjectives you add in front of your product mission, the smaller the market, but the more targeted you are. So the next phase is really about scaling that small niche to something bigger. Using, at that time, the Facebook marketing wasn't mature, so we couldn't use lookalikes. But then nowadays, the Facebook marketing and Google actually have these tools that's called lookalike audiences. So you can use those. But at that time, we scaled it by channels. So first of all, we got the lifetime value, LTV, to be higher than CPA, cost per acquisition, for a very, very small channel. And we started with Google search engine marketing. And we can talk about channel by channel. It all has pros and cons, but that's how we got started, because it's actually easier and easier to iterate, faster to learn. So that's how we got started. And we established different affiliate partnerships. And then later on, we tag on SEOs and other channels as well. And we got a little bit of traction, and then we almost got acquired. Actually, a billionaire flew us out to meet him, and just on the table, and he said, hey, if you say yes right now, and he literally just dropped a pen to all the co-founders, there are 4 of us, and he said, hey, if you just sign this right now, you'll all become millionaires after tax. He made sure he said after tax. And I was like, wow, that's very, very cool. But we decided to take another gamble. We didn't say yes. And I think the mindset we had at that time is we believe the next iteration of Spokeo, we really want to see that vision through. But the reason why I add this story here is because companies are bought, not sold. We didn't seek this investor, right? It's just that he saw the traction that Spokeo have, however small, and he thinks that there are synergies between what we do and what they do. He thinks that there's potentials in these young kids, and that's why he reached out to us. And it's not like we actively trying to seek out. And our mindset was right. Our mindset is focused on building real product values, and that's why this kind of thing happened. When your mindset is all about exits all the freaking time, maybe you can get an exit, but I guarantee you that price won't be that great. So we saved the money, we saved the cash, and we invested in the name search and phone search functionality and launched the 4th version of Spokeo and officially enter into the people search market. And that's when we hit that inflection point. Now, the inflection point, I don't believe it's planned. It comes as a surprise. It's just that we are ready when that timing comes. I don't think we can predict the timing. I don't think we knew what will happen. I don't think we're that prescient to think that we will take off with the Spokeo 4th version in 2010. But I think we were ready. We know about different channels. We know a little bit about SEM, SEO, affiliates, all the different channels, and how to scale the company. And when that happens, we were able to take advantage of it. So in this phase, beyond that $1 million, beyond the hardest point, which is actually finding that product market fit, at this phase is really about scaling the business model. Right? You got the LTV, larger than CPA for a very, very targeted market. So now that's trying to grow that audience. Try to find like-minded people to grow and scale that business model. One thing to keep in mind is that we learn in economics about economy of scale. In paid channels, in paid marketing channels, there's actually the opposite, the economy of scale. Because when this happens, when you're trying to scale your business model, the audience that you acquire becomes less and less targeted. In other words, at some point, you will get diminishing rate of return. In other words, at some point, you have to break through. You will hit a ceiling, and you have to break through. You have to reinvent yourself. And that's the next theme of the next phase, and the phase afterwards and afterwards. I think building a company, whether it's about starting a small company or reinventing a large one, is all about reinvention, all about change. I think the only thing that doesn't change is change itself. And you got to continue to have that mindset in order to actually reinvent yourself and survive. So for the next phase, which is where we are today, what we do is we found this vertical, right? This email search vertical, name search vertical, and we start scaling the market segments and verticals and use cases. So we launched the reverse phone lookup. We launched the address search. And then we offer, knowing that Zillow and Trulia got most of their traffic from SEO, we kind of want to play a part in that and offer a unique value prop different from them. And that unique value prop is helping users find out their owners and residents, whether it's current or past residents, centering around people. So we launched that. We launched the famous people search because we believe that people search, which is, by the way, 8% of searches online are names. It's the second biggest vertical search query type behind location. So we know this is a very, very big market, and we want to build a universal people search to serve that need. So we launched the famous people search. We launched historical records, and yeah, I like that beer. And we launched the historical record and our first foray into the UGC, user-generated content, called Family.me. We launched Spokeo for law enforcement. So again, it's different verticals, right? One step at a time. And one of the things that we learned is different from scaling your business model within a vertical. It's actually a lot more challenging when you're scaling two different verticals because all the different use cases, all the different market segments have their own unique value props. And this is one thing as an engineer I didn't appreciate. I thought, hey, let's build this cool technology. This is great. And then let's just own everything. Actually, what I realized later on through actually many different marketing specialists that we hire over time, the importance of actually understanding your customer needs and the different value props for different market segments. So don't underestimate the importance of segmentation. And this is what a lot of companies, even though they passed the first two stages, they went bankrupt in this stage because they underestimated, just like I have, underestimated the importance of understanding your customer segments and customer audience and actually build and customize your product solution for that segment. Now, going beyond. This is the stage where I have no track record to speak about. But this is what I believe the next stage of Spokeo and what we need to do. So we started out as a social network aggregator. We evolved into the social people search engine by email. Then we tackle a bigger market called social people search, then people search. And now the next phase of Spokeo that I believe to take us from 78 million, 80 million to above 100 and beyond is to really, really build that universal people intelligence platform that empowers people's people-based decisions. So I'll take a moment to actually reintroduce our new brand, which will actually launch live on our site in 2 months. So the new brand is centering about transparency. It's actually built upon a deep understanding of our customer segments. We did a survey, the marketing studies, and all those things, focusing on segmenting our use cases from search and connect as one vertical, the other one is protect and authentication, identity authentication as the other, right? Fuse that with culture insights, and we come up with this brand positioning called transparency. Added onto the proposition of Spokeo, what we call the ultimate profile. That's what the new Spokeo will be. Spokeo is not a people search website. Our goal is not to connect you with the next date or tell you which restaurant is this week's hottest trend. Spokeo is a platform that helps you get to know the people around you better, because people don't come with a dossier attached to the chest. We fit alongside your daily routine as crucial as your morning cup of coffee. We help you make informed decisions on the most important things in life. We hope to make the process of trusting a little easier, since we're all fanatical about making the world more transparent. No more Spokeo. That is the new brand, and that's what we believe will take Spokeo to the next stage by simplifying our value proposition down to the word of transparency, down to that concept of people intelligence. Now, that's my hidden agenda. We are hiring. We have over 30 job requisitions open, and you can just go to spokeo.com/careers to see these open job requisitions. Now I'll open up the floor to all questions. Any questions? Oh, please.
How long did it take you to get from 1 million in revenue to 10 million? How long was that process?
That's relatively short, probably about 2-3 years. 2-3 years. I think scaling is a lot easier than actually establishing that foothold, actually. The analogy I would use is, I think, milking a cow is a lot easier than growing one, right? So it only takes about 2-3 years. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned you get data from various sources.
Mm-hmm.
Can you name, or are you allowed to tell us what some of the sources might be?
Sure. Got it from white pages, consumer records. I can't tell the exact name because of NDA, but then we got it from white pages, consumer records, historical records, U.S. Census, right? And then the court records, property records, and so on and so on. There's about thousands of social networks online and things like that. We have our own online crawlers as well. Mm-hmm. Please.
So just to add to that question before that, so majority of your back-end data you're getting is from open public resources, from death records and some of the ones you mentioned.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So what really makes you guys proprietary? I know some of your competitors are White Pages and Nextcaller. How do you foresee the future, with competing with them?
That's a very, very good question. So to our direct competitors, our advantage is we actually own our own data technology. So actually, most of our direct competitors in the consumer space, they use basically a big company, a billion-dollar company's API. But rather, we actually have our own data sources and build our own data technologies. But long-term, you're correct. Long-term publicly available information is publicly available. And I believe the price and the value of the publicly available information will converge to zero. So we have to establish a way to generate unique data. And the most unique data is actually from users themselves. So we have to build a more direct relationship with the consumers, with the users themselves, building that trust so that they can actually help so that we can actually work together, right, to improve this data set. Whether it's about owning their own identities, claiming their profile, editing their information, and so on and so on. There's many different use cases like that. But we call it UGC, user-generated content. That's one of our big focus. And actually, we started with the family.me. We're trying to introduce it on Spokeo. The truth is, it's a much bigger and harder problem than I originally anticipated. But we are very, very firm and very, very convinced and dedicated to this direction. Oh, sorry.
I was quicker.
I'm curious as to, this is phenomenal growth, and managing that process of change on the journey you were at had to have been interesting for you. Could you talk about how you were able to balance the dissension in your teams and maintain truth over harmony?
That's great. So I think it comes from the mindset. My mindset is never be afraid of challenges, confront it heads on. Just like as I learned when I come to the United States at the age of 13, learning English is about not being afraid to be laughed at, right? Just speak out, and people think, hey, you said stupid things, that's fine. Get past it and keep going, right? So I think it's about mindset of not being afraid to tackle the problem. And this is why I always share with our team. I always tell our team, guys, problems are not problems. It's how we deal with it. Because a lot of people, when they face the problems, they want to hide it under the rug. And the truth is, as a CEO, I actually don't know everything that's going on in the company. I actually don't know. And if people hide it under the rug and it actually surfaces, usually it's when it blew up. So actually, I want to instill this mindset from our teams and say, hey, guys, don't be afraid to talk about problems when you first arise. Let's solve it together, right? It's how we deal with it that actually is the most important thing, right? If you choose to deal with it like hiding on the rug or just run away from it, then I will be ashamed to say, hey, that is the problem. But if you're not, then that's fine. Let's keep going, and let's just move on and learn from that.
At one point, did you know you had a product market fit? Did you use some special KPIs, or what was your definition in essence of now we have a product market fit and we can run with this?
Sure, because we don't have, again, there's many different ways to build a company. Okay, we don't have millions of dollars in the bank like a lot of VC funded companies do, so we have to focus on cash flow. And to generate cash flow, what we do is we actually, basically the easiest way, right, conceptually, the easiest is from your expected LTV, lifetime value, is it larger than CPA? Is it larger than cost per acquisition? Now, the reason why I say this is easy to say than done is because it requires very, very sophisticated analytics. So in the beginning, we don't have those. We just kind of guessed, right? We look at the number of payments, right? It's a subscription business, so we look at the number of recognized payments counted against cost. So it's a very, very rough estimation. There's no regression analysis or anything like that that we do have today. But again, the core theme is we want to focus on cash flow, and so we want to find that segment, that channel where the LTV is larger than CPA.
Yes, Harrison, given that you're in the business and a leader in the business of personal information and records, and you're mentioning transparency, could you give us your quick take on generally where we are today in cybersecurity and privacy, particularly in light of the recent massive, unprecedented breaches of Equifax and 3 billion Yahoo emails? Thank you.
Yeah, I do think that, first of all, that's a very, I think the world is becoming more transparent. That's my belief. Now, I definitely recognize that different people have different feelings of privacy. So I definitely a method for users to directly control their information, right? Because transparency goes both ways, right? We want to make sure that we help users know who they're dealing with, but at the same time, we want to help users understand their own information online. So I think, again, transparency and privacy are not like completely opposite of each other. I think we can have the best of both worlds. And I think the key concept is control. The key concept is that openness, that transparency that help users, educate users about not just their publicly available information online, but also about what's happening around their world. Yeah.
What was the limiting factor in growing your team? Was it your ability to find the right people, to pay the right people? As you scaled up, how did you onboard people?
So, that's another great question. This sounds very cliche, but it is true. It's about finding the right people. It's about finding the right fit, right? The person might actually be very, very capable, but the key thing is the fit. Does that fit into your culture? Does it fit your current need? And actually, people will be surprised about how hard it is to find the people with the right fit, right skill set to lead the team. So in other words, it's actually finding the leaders who are self-motivated, who are passionate about what they do, who really believe and treat the company Spokeo just like their own. It's actually very, very hard to do. We recognize that very, very early on. So we build out these processes and all these things, right, to help train the leaders and all these things and help onboard more people. We try actually just expand it through headcount. We tried that. At the end of the day, though, number of people actually doesn't mean success. It's about the quality of your team. So actually, I learned the hard way that process is actually not the gating factor. It's actually not the end all be all. It's actually people who you find that's even more important. To use the analogy, I don't want to find people to fit into a process. Rather, I want to create a process around the right people, the right leaders.
I feel like Spokeo is like a private NSA or like a company that is trying to mine for data for everyone. And I'm sure you heard about the controversy of Google, being asked by the EU to allow requests from certain individuals to not being available on the search engine. Is there such a process on your platform? And what do you have to say about the private NSA?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. Well, first of all, we're not private NSA because we don't listen to your phone calls or anything like that. So I just want to clarify that. But yes, we do have an easy opt-out, one-step opt-out process.
If I saw it right, you haven't worked for anyone else. When did you decide that I'm not going to work for anyone else? When did that happen?
Well, first of all, I didn't decide to not work for everyone else. I actually don't mind working for Google or Facebook or anything like that. It just happens that my journey, ended up this way, right? So it's just, when I first started and I told my co-founders, they're all my roommates. And the reason why they're my roommates is because no one else wanted to join, by the way. So so just want to clarify that. And then I just told them, hey, none of us have girlfriends at that time or wife or children. So it was like, hey, give us 2-3 years. Give me 2-3 years. If it doesn't work out, let's just go find a job. And I guess it worked out so far. So So we're all still working together. So that's just our story and our journey. And I'm not the kind of guy who can easily give up. So I'm very, very excited to see how this journey further leads. But again, I'm very, very open-minded to working for other companies or working for the belief or mission that I really, really believe in, such as the Google self-driving car and so on. I can list many of them. But at the same time, I also very believe in our mission quite a bit, and that's why I'm still here.
I think this question has kind of been asked in different ways, but I think this might be a more direct way to say it, is what kind of ethical challenges or concerns were there for you in the process, in the early stages or in the middle or even now?
Well, I really believe in the open web, the transparent web, the transparent world. Now, I didn't use the word transparent when I first started, but then from the very, very early on, that culture is imbued from within our team, right? So I really believe in that. And I really believe in data, the intersection of people, technology, and data. I really believe in that. I believe that's going to be the genesis of the third industrial revolution. I really believe in that. And that's why I'm doing it. Now, I'm not trying to say the solution we come up with today is the dream version that I envision. And I'm not trying to say I have the dream solution for that. But I believe in this direction. That's why I'm moving ahead. And I believe in what we do. Again, I believe in our ability to solve the problem. I'm not trying to say we don't have a lot of problems. We have a lot of challenges. And I don't care how those challenges, well, I do care, but I really are not ashamed or embarrassed about the challenges and how they came up. Because I believe in myself and my team, in our dedication to solve these problems. And given time, given hard work, I believe we can overcome them. And that's why I'm doing it. I'm still doing it after 10 years. Mm-hmm. Does that answer your question? All right. Any other questions? Great. Oh, sorry. We're always very, very open and really want to help, right? That's another reason why I'm here today, right? To share the stories. It was a kind of a joke that the recruiting thing is a hidden agenda. The real reason why I'm here, or I do public speaking probably once every 2 months, is just to share the stories. And people invite me and I go, right? And we have also other community efforts. Spokeo set aside about $100,000 a year for different various community efforts. So we're definitely open to help. Now, if your question is, what's our plan to save the world? Unfortunately, we don't really have that plan yet because we're not Facebook or Google. We're generating crazy amount of cash. So we're just trying to do our best and to survive too, right? So to our best abilities, when there are opportunities, we want to help. We want to give back to the community that we grow in, to the community that I call home. So we're doing those things. No grand plans, but we're trying our best. Thanks. Any other questions? Anything? All right. Thank you. Thanks a lot.